Hello everybody, Zach here, and welcome back to another GTA 5 mod showcase with another aircraft mod. This is the Boeing B-29 Superfortress. I'm going to be doing this mod showcase a little bit differently. I'm going to primarily use the Rockstar editor as well as go into a more deep history of the aircraft. I used to open up my other mod showcases with a short history lesson, or a short, going over the details of a craft. This one's going to be a little bit more in-depth. If you want to get this mod, you can go into the description and get the link. It's a really simple add-on mod by Skyline GTR Freak, so you can check it out. So on to the details. This is a 4-engine propeller-driven heavy bomber designed by Boeing. It was primarily used in World War II and the Korean War. Had its first flight in 1942, and the production of this plane was very, very unique. Not only did it cost more than any other weapons project at the time, it exceeded the Manhattan Project by over $1 billion in its cost, but it had innovations that other aircraft didn't up until this point. This included a pressurized cabin, tricycle-style landing gear, and a remote computer-controlled fire system, which was very innovative at the time. This allowed a single gunner and a fire control officer to direct 4 machine gun turrets. That's nuts, and if you can see on this model, you can see the turrets on the top of this plane, at least 2 of them there. So, the name Superfortress continued the pattern Boeing started with its well-known predecessor, which was the B-17 Flying Fortress. So, the real history in World War II. So, in September 1941, the Army Air Force's plans for war against Germany and Japan proposed basing the B-29 in Egypt for operations against Germany, as British air bases were likely to be overcrowded. The Air Force planning throughout 1942 and early 1943 continued to have the B-29 deployed initially against Germany, only transferring to the Pacific after the end of the war in Europe. By the end of 1943, however, plans had changed, partly due to the production delays, and the B-29 was dedicated to the Pacific theater. A new plan implemented at the direction of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, as a promise to China, called Operation Matterhorn, deployed the B-29 units to attack Japan from 4 forward bases in southern China, with 5 main bases in India, and to attack other targets in the region from China and India as needed. The Chengdu region was eventually chosen over the Gulian region to avoid having to raise, equip, and train 50 Chinese divisions to protect the advance's bases from Japanese ground attack. The XX Bomber Command, initially intended to be 2 combat wings of 4 groups each, was reduced to a single wing of 4 groups because of the lack of availability of the aircraft, automatically limiting the effectiveness of any attacks from China. So here is probably the most important role of the B-29 in World War II. You had the most famous B-29s, which were the Silver Plate series, were modified to drop atomic bombs. They were also stripped of all guns except the tail gun to be lighter. The Silver Plate aircraft were handpicked by Lieutenant Colonel Paul W. Tibbets for the mission straight off the assembly line at the Omaha plant that was to become Offutt Air Force Base. Enola Gay was flown by Tibbets, dropped the first bomb, called Little Boy, on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. Enola Gay is currently fully restored and on display at the Smithsonian's Stephen F. Udvar Hazy Center outside Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. Boxcar dropped the second bomb, called Fat Man, on Nagasaki 3 days later. Boxcar is on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. So we can look back at the history and say, did we really need to do this to end the war? And there are going to be a lot of different opinions on this that we can look back on. But even, the creator of the atomic bomb regrets what he did. He looks back and says that he wishes, years later, that he didn't create this. But we can't look back on the fact that it did end the war. And there's going to be a lot of people that look back at, that are on both sides. They're going to be saddened by the fact that we had to do this. I'm speaking here as an American, saddened by the fact that we had to do this. And at the same time, there's going to be other countries that have never probably looked at us the same way. But a lot of the Allies agree that this was the only way we could do it. So, following the surrender of Japan, called VJ Day, B-29s were used for other purposes. A number supplied POWs with food and other necessities by dropping barrels of rations on Japanese POW camps. In September 1945, a long-distance flight was undertaken for public relations purposes. Generals Barney M. Gills, Curtis LeMay, and Emmett O'Donnell Jr. piloted 3 specially modified B-29s from Chitose Air Force Base in Hokkaido to Chicago Municipal Airport, continuing to Washington, D.C. Because of the B-29's advanced design, unlike many other World War II-era bombers, the Superfortress remained in service long after the war ended, with a few even being employed as flying television transmitters for the Stratovision Company. The B-29 served in various roles throughout the 1950s. The Royal Air Force flew the B-29 as the Washington until phasing out the type in 1954. The Soviet Union produced an unlicensed reverse-engineered copy as the Tupolev Tu-4. The B-29 was the progenitor of a series of Boeing-built bombers, transports, tankers, reconnaissance aircraft, and trainers, including the B-50 Superfortress, which was essentially a re-engineered B-29. The type was retired in the early 1960s. The B-29 production total was 3,970 aircraft. Dozens of B-29s remain as static displays, but only 2 examples, Beefy and Doc, have been restored to flying status, with Doc flying again for the first time from McConnell Air Force Base on July 17, 2016. A transport developed from the B-29 was the Boeing C-97 Stratofreighter, first flown in 1944, followed by its commercial airliner variant, the Boeing Model 377 Stratocruiser in 1947. I actually did a video on the 377 Stratocruiser. I hope you guys found that interesting. This shows off some of the different, right here, it shows off some of the different liveries that are available with this aircraft, like I said, as the add-on version that it is. So if you want to check them out, you can watch this here. I also, I hope you guys like this. I hope you guys like this idea and want to be, you know, if I'm doing planes that have some type of historical significance, I like this style, and I thought it would have been a good idea. I know, for instance, one of the things that most interested me about World War II and the wars that we have been in the past is, or what got me into some of them, were video games. And, you know, the early Call of Duties on the PC had historical backgrounds, and they went to great detail to get a lot of the details and the story correct. You know, you had some made-up characters, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the stories were along the lines of what soldiers would have done back then. So I feel like by showing off the B-29 in GTA 5, if you're just interested in it for the mod that it is, you can get it as the mod that it is and just fly around with it. But if you want to actually know the history behind it, I feel like this wasn't a bad place to talk about it. Also, too, I mean, if you want to talk, I have a feeling it might get morally a mess down in the comments. But if you want to talk about the morals behind the atomic bomb droppings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I would definitely be interested to see what people have to say, and I definitely want to interact with you guys on that topic as well. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, as well as comment below. Let me know if you want to see more videos in this style. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Bye.